Amy stood at the edge of the Heartland pasture, watching the sun rise over the hills. The horses grazed quietly, the ranch peaceful, but her heart wasn't. Something had changed in her. The life she once found comfort in now felt too small, too still. After everything she'd faced, losing Ty, raising Lyndy, and holding the family together, Amy was starting to feel something she hadn't allowed herself in years: restlessness. And that feeling? It was about to push her toward a decision that no one saw coming. In the final moments of season 18, Heartland was holding on, but just barely. Amy had spent years healing not just herself, but others, horses, people, even her family. Yet deep inside, the cracks in her strength had begun to show. Losing Ty had forced her to become someone else: strong, independent, and focused on keeping Heartland together for Lyndy's sake. But what no one realized was that Amy had never stopped grieving. She had simply gotten better at hiding it. Lou was knee-deep in her political duties, often missing family dinners and brushing aside emotional talks with Amy. Peter and Lou's relationship continued to feel strained, with Peter pulling away quietly, spending more time in Vancouver. Katie, their daughter, had grown more distant too, caught between her parents' tension and her own teenage rebellion. Jack, the quiet rock of the family, started noticing how the center of their family, Amy, wasn't smiling like she used to. Tim's health scare last season had shaken everyone, but it had also made Amy think life could change in a second. Watching her father struggle with his own aging and regrets, she began asking herself hard questions. Was this still the life she wanted? Was she living for herself or only for others? The questions didn't come all at once. They built up slowly, like water behind a dam, and in season 19, that dam was about to break. Meanwhile, Georgie had been away, chasing her dreams, barely checking in. Amy felt proud of her, of course, but also lonely. With Lyndy growing older, asking more questions about her dad, and wondering what else was out there in the world, Amy was starting to feel that maybe it was time for something new, not just for Lyndy, but for herself too. The first episode of season 19 opens with a quiet morning at the ranch. Birds chirp, horses stir, and Amy moves through the barn like always, but there's a heaviness to her steps. Even Jack notices and gently asks, "You okay, kid?" Amy gives her usual soft smile, the one that means she's not okay but doesn't want to talk about it. Something's building. Even if no one fully understands it yet, the ranch feels the same. The chores are the same. But Amy? Amy is about to make a choice that could change everything, and deep down, she knows it. The sun was shining over Hudson, but something felt different in the air. It wasn't the weather, it was Amy. She moved through the day like a ghost in her own life. Feeding the horses, brushing Storm, checking the fences, she did it all, just like always. But the light in her eyes was fading. Her movements were slower, her thoughts heavier. There were no major fights, no accidents, no drama. And yet, inside Amy, a storm was building. It started with little things. Amy forgot to refill the feed bins, something she'd never missed before. She left a saddle out in the rain overnight. She even skipped her daily ride with Lyndy, who noticed and asked, "Are you too tired again, Mom?" Amy knelt down and hugged her daughter tightly, whispering, "No, sweetie, just thinking a lot lately." Lyndy didn't press further, but her eyes stayed on Amy a little longer that day. Jack, as always, picked up on it. He watched her from a distance, not pushing, but clearly worried. He told Lisa later that night, "She's not saying it, but something's off. She's here, but not really here." Lisa nodded, her face serious. "Maybe she needs a break, or maybe she's thinking about leaving." Jack didn't say anything after that. He just slipped out the window, deep in thought. At the dinner table, the silence was louder than the words. Lou was going on about a new town council project. Peter was barely listening, tapping at his phone. Katie was scrolling through her holopad, headphones in. Amy watched them all, realizing how distant they'd all become. It wasn't anyone's fault, it was just life. Busy, complicated, disconnected. She suddenly felt like a stranger in her own family. Later that night, Amy sat on the porch, sipping tea, wrapped in Ty's old flannel. The stars stretched above, her like a silent reminder of everything she'd once dreamed of. She thought about the girl she used to be, the one who believed in miracles, who saved horses and felt free. Somewhere along the line, that girl had gotten lost. Now, she was a mother, a sister, a daughter, always giving, always staying, but never asking, "What do I want?" The next morning brought something unexpected. A letter arrived in the mail, one that had been delayed in routing. It was from an old mentor of hers, a woman named Dr. Delaney, who had once worked with Amy on equine therapy years ago. The letter was simple but powerful. Dr. Delaney was retiring and wanted Amy to take her place at a high-profile horse therapy center on the coast, a place where Amy could help kids and animals in new ways, a place where her skills could grow, a place far away from Heartland. Amy read the letter twice, then a third time. Her hands trembled slightly. It was the first time in years anyone had asked her to step outside the ranch and into something unknown. For a moment, her heart beat faster, not in fear, in hope. But that feeling was quickly drowned in guilt. Could she really leave? Would the family understand? She tucked the letter away in her nightstand and didn't mention it to anyone that day. But her mind kept going back to it. Every time Lyndy laughed, every time Jack told a story, every time Lou talked about her next campaign speech, Amy felt torn. She loved them all so deeply. But love, she was starting to learn, doesn't mean staying small. One afternoon, she took Spartan out to ride. They galloped across the fields like they used to, wind in her hair, eyes closed, heart open. And for a few precious moments, Amy felt like herself again. Not just a version who had suffered loss, but the one who had once chased freedom, who believed in healing, who dreamed of wild horses and untouched trails. As they stopped at the riverbank, Spartan nudged her softly. Amy smiled, but then tears welled in her eyes. "I don't know what to do," she whispered. "This place, it's everything. But maybe I'm not meant to stay forever." That night, Amy finally brought the letter out and placed it on the kitchen table during dinner. The room went silent. Jack looked at her. Lou froze mid-bite. Peter lowered his phone. Even Katie removed her headphones. Amy's voice was quiet, but steady. "I've been offered something, a chance to help more horses, more people, somewhere else." No one spoke. The air felt thick. No shouting, no arguments, just a deep, heavy pause. Amy looked around the table. "I haven't decided anything yet. I just needed you to know." The storm hadn't hit yet, but the winds were changing, and Heartland was about to feel it. The silence around the dinner table didn't fade quickly. Even after Amy spoke, the weight of her words stayed in the room like smoke that wouldn't clear. No one yelled, no one stormed off, but in a way, that made it worse. Everyone was stunned, trying to make sense of what Amy had just said. That she was considering leaving Heartland. Later that night, Jack knocked on her bedroom door. He stepped in quietly, holding 2 mugs of cocoa. He sat beside her without saying a word. After a long pause, he finally asked, "Do you want to leave, or do you need to?" Amy looked down, then met his eyes. "I don't know," she said, softly. "I've never asked myself that before." Jack nodded slowly. "Then maybe it's time you did." That was the beginning. Over the next few days, Amy's world began to shift. The offer was real. The opportunity wouldn't wait forever. She had to choose, and no matter what she chose, someone would be hurt. Lou was the first to confront her. "Are you serious, Amy?" she said, arms folded, voice tight. "You're going to walk away from Heartland? From Lyndy's home? From us?" Amy didn't fight. She didn't argue. She just said, "Maybe I need to find out who I am when I'm not carrying everyone else." Lou blinked, caught off guard by the honesty in her voice. "You think we don't all carry things?" she snapped, but her anger quickly faded. Lou sat down, rubbing her forehead. I don't want to lose you too." Amy reached over and held her sister's hand. "I'm not leaving to run away. I'm leaving because staying might mean I stop growing." Peter, more practical than emotional, approached it from another angle. "It's a great opportunity," he admitted. "But are you ready for what it means? What if Lyndy hates it? What if it doesn't work out?" Amy nodded. "Then we come back. But if I don't try, I'll always wonder." Even Caleb chimed in when they ran into each other at the feed store. "You sure about this?" he asked, tossing a bag of oats into his truck. You've been the heart of this place since we were kids, Amy smiled. Half sad, half grateful. That's the thing, Caleb. I've been the heart of this place for so long, I forgot I had my own. But it was Lyndy who changed everything. One evening, Amy sat beside her daughter at bedtime, brushing her hair gently. Sweetheart, she began, what would you think if we lived somewhere else for a little while? A place with more horses, more people to help? Lyndy looked up, thoughtful. Would I still have you? She asked. Amy's throat tightened. Always. Lyndy paused, then nodded. Then I don't care where we go, as long as you smile more, Amy cried quietly. After that, her daughter, so small and wise, had unknowingly given her permission to choose herself, not over family, but with them in mind. Amy wasn't chasing freedom. She was chasing growth and trying to set an example for Lyndy. The next morning, Amy made her decision. She would go, not forever, not as a goodbye, but as a chapter, a new beginning. She gathered her family in the living room and told them, I've accepted the offer. I'll be gone for a while, but Lyndy and I will be okay. And so will Heartland. The reactions were mixed. Lou cried. Jack nodded in quiet pride. Peter looked thoughtful. Katie seemed shocked. Tim didn't say much, but hugged her longer than usual. Even Lisa whispered, I think you're brave. Amy spent the next few days preparing, packing only what was needed, saying goodbye to the horses she loved like family, walking the trails one last time, touching the barn walls with reverence, whispering thank you under her breath. Heartland wasn't just a place, it was a part of her soul. But even souls need to stretch, to breathe, to move forward. On the morning of her departure, Jack handed her Ty's old cowboy hat. He'd be proud, he said. Amy held it to her chest, tears shining in her eyes. I hope so, as Amy and Lyndy climbed into the truck, ready to leave the ranch behind. For now, everyone stood together to wave them off. There were no angry words, no guilt, just love, deep and quiet. The gravel crunched beneath the tires as they drove away. Amy looked in the rearview mirror at the home that raised her. Then she looked ahead, at the road waiting to be discovered. Heartland had always been more than fences and barns. It was memory, history, and soul stitched into every board. But now, without Amy walking its fields, without her steady presence at the barn or her warm voice guiding troubled horses, something had changed. The quiet wasn't peaceful anymore, it felt hollow. Jack was the first to feel the ache. He woke early like always, brewed 2 cups of coffee, and instinctively walked to the porch, expecting Amy to join him. But her chair stayed empty. He placed the 2nd cup down anyway, staring at the fields. The silence hurt. He didn't say much to anyone, but his eyes lingered longer on family photos. His steps were slower. When Lisa gently touched his arm and said, You miss her, don't you? He only nodded once. Lou tried to stay busy. She doubled down on town council duties, took more meetings, hosted more events. But beneath the surface, she was shaken. Amy had always been her constant. Even when they disagreed, Amy was home. Now, Lou felt unanchored. During a press interview, someone asked her about Heartland's future, and she froze for a moment longer than usual. Later, in the privacy of her office, she cried quietly. Not because Amy had done something wrong, but because change, even the brave kind, hurts. Tim masked his emotions in his usual way by staying in motion. He took over more of the barn duties, pushed Caleb to train harder, and tried not to mention Amy at all. But when he walked past Ty's old clinic, the sight of the door cracked slightly open, left that way by Amy before she left, stopped him in his tracks. He stood there for a long time, not going in, just staring, remembering, missing his daughter more than he'd admit out loud. Katie, surprisingly, seemed the most unsettled. She had always thought Amy would be there forever, solid, dependable, like the ranch itself. Now that Amy was gone, even temporarily, Katie started asking new questions. What if other things changed too? What if Lou left again? What if people just stopped showing up one day? That fear made her angry. She acted out, picked fights with Lou, skipped chores, stayed out late. One night, she even shouted, If Amy can leave, why can't I? Lou didn't answer, because she didn't have one. Georgie, hearing the news from abroad, was caught off guard. She messaged Amy a simple text, "You okay?" Amy responded, "Better than I've felt in a long time." That made Georgie pause. She realized maybe Amy wasn't just making a bold move, maybe she was finally healing. Back in Hudson, the town noticed too. At Maggie's diner, people whispered, "Did you hear? Amy Fleming left." Some were surprised. Others weren't. Most respected it. But all agreed Heartland felt different. Clients who once booked weeks in advance for horse therapy were now unsure. Some canceled. Others waited, hoping she'd return. The ranch's schedule grew lighter. Caleb and Jade picked up the slack, but there was no replacing Amy. Meanwhile, Lisa tried to keep everyone together. She organized more family dinners, invited neighbors over, filled the house with warmth and food. But even she couldn't ignore the missing energy, the laughter Amy used to bring, the quiet leadership she carried so naturally. Jack finally spoke one night over dinner. His voice was calm but full of weight. "I know this feels like we lost something, but Amy didn't leave us behind. She went to find the parts of herself she gave up to keep us going." Everyone grew silent. Even Katie listened. Jack looked around. "Maybe now we figure out who we are without leaning on her." The ranch had to adjust. Everyone had to. Horses still needed care. Fences still needed fixing. Life didn't stop. But it moved slower, softer, like the land was holding its breath, waiting for Amy to return but not to rescue them. To share what she found out there, Amy, for her part, wrote letters, real ones, handwritten and heartfelt. She sent updates to Lyndy's cousins, pictures of the therapy center, stories of rescued horses and smiling kids. Each word she wrote was filled with lightness, like a burden had lifted. Her new home was nothing like Heartland. The ocean air replaced the prairie wind. The horses were different, the people unfamiliar. But Amy wasn't lost. She was growing, learning, remembering what it meant to belong to herself. Still, every night before bed, she'd open a wooden box she brought from Heartland. Inside were photos: Ty, Jack, Lou, Lyndy, the ranch. She would smile, touch each one and whisper, "Not gone, just growing." And far back at Heartland, that truth slowly took root. Maybe this wasn't the end of something. Maybe it was the beginning of everyone becoming something more. The first morning at the new center felt strange for Amy. The air smelled like salt instead of hay. The sounds were unfamiliar: waves crashing in the distance, seagulls crying overhead, and the soft murmurs of children arriving for therapy sessions. For a moment, she stood still, unsure of where she belonged in all this. But then Lyndy took her hand and said, "Let's go meet the horses, Mom." That one sentence grounded her. It reminded her why she came. Not to escape, but to begin again. The center was different from Heartland in every way. It was sleek, structured, almost clinical at first glance. But the horses? They were the same wounded souls looking for trust, waiting for someone to understand their silence. And Amy knew exactly how to listen. Her first session was with a stubborn gelding who refused to be touched. Everyone had given up on him. But Amy sat in the arena for an hour, saying nothing, just being present. By the end of the day, the horse had taken a cautious step toward her. Small progress, big meaning. Each day brought a new challenge. Some of the children at the center had faced deep trauma, abuse, fear, loss. Others had withdrawn from the world entirely. Amy didn't push them. She gave them space, like she gave the horses. Slowly, they opened up. One girl who hadn't spoken in months whispered thank you after a session. A boy with severe anxiety touched a horse for the first time. Amy didn't just help them heal. They were healing her. Tea night. Amy and Lyndy made their little apartment feel like home. They cooked simple dinners, put up drawings Lyndy made of Heartland, and played old videos of Ty riding Spartan. There were tears, but also laughter. Lyndy had questions about Ty, about why they left, but Amy answered them with honesty and love. "We're still us," she told her daughter, "just in a new place." Back at Heartland, life moved forward. Slowly, Lou began involving Katie more in her council work. Jack took time to teach a neighbor's kid how to ride. Even Tim stopped by more often, bringing breakfast or fixing loose boards, as if staying busy helped him stay close to Amy's memory in the ranch. The pain of her absence didn't disappear, but it softened. The family started to find balance. Again, not by replacing Amy, but by rising in her absence. One evening, a package arrived at the ranch. Inside was a framed photo, Amy and Lyndy standing beside the gelding that had once refused to trust anyone. Behind them, the ocean shimmered. There was a short note tucked inside. It read, "We're doing okay, and I'm smiling again. Love always, Amy." Jack placed the photo on the mantel. No one spoke, but they all stared at it for a long time. Amy's brave decision didn't break Heartland. It made everyone braver, stronger. It reminded them all that sometimes love means letting go, and sometimes leaving is the first step to truly returning whole and free. Amy's choice to leave Heartland wasn't a rejection, it was an evolution. She wasn't running away from the past. She was honoring it by choosing to grow beyond it. For so long, she had carried the ranch, the family, and the grief of losing Ty. But now, for the first time in years, she was carrying herself with purpose, with courage, and with hope. Back at the ranch, her absence created space. Not emptiness, but opportunity. For Lou to become more emotionally present. For Jack to open up and guide others like he once guided Amy. For Katie to find strength in her own identity. Even for Tim to reflect on the relationships he had neglected. For too long, Amy leaving didn't break the family, it helped them rise. Because sometimes the strongest bond is the one that trusts you enough to let you go. As season 19 begins, one thing is clear. Heartland is changing. But it's not fading, it's growing. Just like Amy, her journey is a reminder that bravery isn't always about staying and fighting. Sometimes it's about listening to the quiet voice inside you that says, "It's time." Will Amy return? That question hangs in the air like a whisper. But maybe that's not what matters most. Maybe what matters is that she finally chose herself, and in doing so, gave her family the space to do the same. Heartland has always been about healing, connection, and second chances. Amy's brave decision might just be the beginning of all. 3 for everyone. So now the question is, if Amy could do it, what's stopping the rest of us? Stay tuned, because Heartland season 19 has only just begun and everything has already changed.